as the king and queen leave the thrones and head for the exit of Westminster Abbey on the coronation Saturday, you'll see that everyone bows and curtsies to the king, and no one moves a limb, a muscle, when Camilla passes.
She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
In one moment that took the nation by surprise, Queen Camilla found herself at the center of an unexpected scene that no one could have predicted. Everyone knows the Queen Consort's journey into the royal house.
Once known as the other woman, Camilla is now the Queen. Kind of. The new king's darling wife has become the Queen Consort.
Has not been without its challenges, but even with public scrutiny, the recent loss of her beloved dog, her husband's ill health, and her heart condition, she has consistently maintained a graceful and composed presence in public. Well, that was all until recently, during a live TV broadcast, when her calm demeanor suddenly gave way to an emotional outburst that left the royal watchers wondering what could have triggered such a surprising reaction from her. You're about to find out, so stay with us. Queen Camilla's recent outburst on live TV. In recent months, the British royal family has been rocked by a series of crises, from King Charles battling a severe form of cancer that has left him too weak to fulfill his royal duties.
King Charles III shares a new update on his health amid his cancer diagnosis.
To the ongoing feud between the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Sussex. But somehow, Queen Camilla has managed to give the public more things to talk about with her recent emotional breakdown on her recently released documentary, Behind Closed Doors. The documentary, which focused on domestic abuse, a cause Queen Camilla has long championed, took an unexpected turn when the heartbreaking story of Joanna Simpson was shared. If you are easily deeply moved by tragedies, this is your cue to brace yourself as you're about to hear one of the most gut-wrenching accounts in the history of domestic maltreatment. During the documentary, Diana Parks courageously recounted the story of her daughter, Joanna Simpson, whose life was stolen in a violent, unimaginable way. According to Diana, Joanna was everything a mother could wish for: beautiful, loving, and full of life. A devoted mother to 2 young children, Joanna was adored by everyone who knew her, but behind her vibrant smile, she was living in constant fear, trapped in a relationship that grew darker by the day. Joanna had married Robert Brown, and at first it seemed like a fairy tale. But as time passed, the relationship turned toxic. Robert became controlling, isolating her from friends and family, until Joanna found herself alone, desperate to escape the hold he had on her life. But no matter how hard she tried to fight back, the walls kept closing in. After years of enduring constant infidelity accusations and violent threats from her estranged husband, Joanna knew she had to leave. So in January 2007, she sought legal advice on how to break free from him. But even that didn't help the situation, because later the next month, after moving to Hong Kong, Joanna received a scary call from Robert, who told her how he fantasized about killing her and their children with an axe, and then committing suicide by crashing a plane. Diana recalled the terror in her daughter's voice when she reported the threat. Sadly, typical of abusers, the threat didn't stop there because days later, upon Joanna's return to the house, Robert threatened her again, but this time with a knife to her chest. This renewed Joanna's resolve to escape the grip of a marriage that had become a nightmare. She was hopeful that the law would finally protect her, that she could breathe freely once more. Diana described how overjoyed she was when Joanna shared the news of a legal precedent that might limit Robert's financial claims in their divorce. The excitement was palpable. Eventually, the divorce proceedings were finalized, and for the first time in years, Joanna was genuinely happy. Sadly, this joy was short-lived, and the future that Joanna had so eagerly hoped for was tragically stolen before she could experience it. On the day of her death, Joanna was alone at home, waiting for Robert to return their children after a week-long visit. In Diana's words, normally, Joanna would never have been alone during such exchanges, considering how violent he can be. But for some reason that day, she was. After the children entered the house, an argument began, At first, it seemed like the usual exchanges they used to have while still married, but in the blink of an eye, it escalated into something horrifying. It was in that heated exchange that Robert, in a move that seemed premeditated and well-calculated, pulled a claw hammer from nowhere and struck Joanna 14 times in the presence of their youngest child. After confirming her dead, he callously placed her lifeless body in the trunk of his car, went inside the house to remove the CCTV unit, and told the children to get into the car. From there, he drove them to his pregnant girlfriend's house, then turned off his mobile phone and finally disposed of Joanna's body in a remote area of Windsor Great Park, where he had already prepared a shallow grave. As Diana recounted her daughter's brutal and heartbreaking final moments, Queen Camilla sat in stunned silence. At first, she tried to hold herself together and could even be seen struggling really hard to stifle the sobs that were building within her by taking deep breaths. But when the full weight of Joanna's story finally hit, she could no longer hold back. That was when broke down in tears. Away from the cameras and the headlines, the Queen has long been an advocate for domestic maltreatment victims, and her dedication has manifested in many forms, especially through her support of the independence campaign called BRIC, by BRIC Initiative. Just a month before the documentary's release, she had made a generous private donation of £300,000 to the BRIC by BRIC Initiative. The heartbreaking reality is that oftentimes, many victims remain in abusive situations because they have no safe place to go. It is this realization that inspired Dame Joanna Lumley, CEO of the Independent Foundation, to launch the Brick by Brick initiative with the goal of creating safe havens for women, children, and even pets fleeing the horrors of abusive homes, a space where healing can take its full course and where they can be given a new chance at life. For Joanna Lumley, this was simply an opportunity to raise funds for the helpless.
We've received breaking news from Buckingham Palace, which has announced that the King has been diagnosed with cancer.
The palace made the announcement today and says the cancer was discovered during diagnostic tests done after his procedure for an enlarged prostate.
It's no secret that King Charles is suffering from a serious illness, and now it seems the weight of the royal family's challenges has taken a toll on his wife, Queen Camilla. In a shocking and emotional moment caught on live TV, the Queen was seen breaking down in tears while the couple were on a tour of Australia and Samoa, leaving audiences worldwide stunned. But what led to this rare public display of vulnerability from a woman known for her composure? Was it the ongoing health struggles of her husband, or something much more personal? Let's get into it. The emotional farewell that made Queen Camilla cry. In February this year, the King of Britain, King Charles, shared with the world that he had been diagnosed with cancer. This announcement was met with concern, but also admiration for his openness. Despite the challenges of undergoing treatment, the king has continued to fulfill his royal duties. One of his most recent commitments was a huge 10-day royal tour of Australia and Samoa, which concluded in late November.
King Charles and Queen Camilla have arrived in Samoa on the second leg of their royal tour, the biggest overseas trip for King Charles since his cancer diagnosis.
The tour ended with an emotional farewell where the Queen, Camilla, cried during a traditional Ava ceremony in the Samoan village of Sumu. Before we get into why the Queen cried, let's talk about what the Ava ceremony is and what exactly was so emotional about it. The Ava ceremony is a traditional Samoan ritual that holds deep cultural and spiritual importance. It is a formal gathering where a drink called Ava is prepared and shared as a symbol of unity, respect, and goodwill. The ceremony is often used to welcome important guests, mark special occasions, or solidify relationships within the community. Its roots go back centuries, reflecting the rich heritage and traditions of Samoa. For King Charles and Queen Camilla, attending this ceremony during their visit was not only an honor, but also a deeply moving experience. The ceremony took place in the village of Sumu, where the royal couple was warmly received by the locals. The villagers had gone to great lengths to prepare for their arrival, decorating the roadsides and homes to create a festive and welcoming atmosphere. The event was rich in cultural rituals, including traditional songs, dances, and speeches, which added to the emotional weight of the occasion. The ava itself, made from the roots of the kava plant, was carefully prepared and shared among the participants in a prescribed order. The act of sharing the ava is seen as a way to establish mutual respect and honor, making it a profound moment for everyone involved. During the ceremony, King Charles was bestowed the honorary title of Tuo, a title that signifies respect and acceptance within Samoan culture. The gesture deeply moved the king, who expressed his heartfelt appreciation to the villagers, saying he will always remain devoted to this part of the world and hope that he survives long enough to come back again and see them. His words touched many hearts, and they showed both his love for the region and the reality of his ongoing health battle. The villagers of Sumu also made it clear how much they appreciated the royal visit. The village chief spoke about the history of royal connections with Samoa, recalling visits by King Charles's late father, Prince Philip, as well as his brothers.
King Charles has been made a High Chief of Samoa during his visit to the Pacific Island. It's the latest stop on the King and Queen's 11-day royal tour.
The chief thanked the king for making time to visit and noted how the royal presence had lifted their house and community. But things don't end there. Queen Camilla also played a huge role during the ceremony, standing by her husband with visible emotion. Some reports suggested that she was crying tears of laughter during a lighter moment of the event, while others noted her tears were a response to the deeply touching atmosphere. Queen Camilla has been a cornerstone of support for King Charles during this challenging time. According to reports, she has encouraged the king to find moments of rest and relaxation amid his busy schedule. The media noted that at Queen Camilla's urging, King Charles has been taking some downtime by reading a great new book, which has provided a welcome distraction from the stresses of his role and health issues. Their relationship has grown even stronger during this period, with courtiers describing them as an amazing team. Queen Camilla has been praised for keeping things real for the king, ensuring he remains grounded and focused despite the pressures he faces. The royal couple's connection to the people of Samoa was evident, and their presence brought joy and pride to the community. The entire event also showed how the king and queen, despite their busy schedules and personal challenges, are still committed to maintaining relationships with nations across the Commonwealth. The tour itself was seen as a major test of King Charles's reign.
This evening I am delighted to mark the renewal of our enduring friendship,
particularly given his health condition. Since his cancer diagnosis in February,
which has announced that the king has been diagnosed with cancer.
The king has been undergoing treatment while maintaining a demanding royal agenda. For this international tour, he traveled with 2 doctors to ensure he could manage his health while fulfilling his commitments. Reports indicate that his treatment is progressing well.
King Charles has been released from the hospital after undergoing a procedure for an enlarged prostate,
allowing him to perform his duties without much interruption. The successful completion of this tour, which included engagements in Australia before reaching Samoa, was a proof of dedication as a monarch. Although some people think Queen Camilla's emotional outburst was linked to her husband's health status, there have been a few suggestions that it could also be due to her poor health status as well. But what exactly is wrong with the Queen's health? Let's get into it. How Queen Camilla's health status contributed to her emotional outburst. Just recently, news came out that Queen Camilla had been battling pneumonia.
Well, Queen Camilla has revealed the chest infection, which caused her to miss several royal duties, was a form of pneumonia,
a respiratory illness that can be particularly dangerous for individuals in her age group. At 77 years old, Camilla has faced immense physical and emotional pressures, which may have contributed to her health challenges. Pneumonia is often associated with symptoms like fatigue, coughing, and difficulty breathing, and it can leave the body feeling weak and vulnerable. For Camilla, the illness seemed to be a result of being overworked and physically exhausted, a condition exacerbated by her demanding royal duties. Throughout the year, Queen Camilla had been juggling a lot of workload, stepping in for both King Charles and Kate Middleton during various royal engagements. Her dedication to the monarchy has been widely recognized, but it has come at a cost. Friends close to the Queen have expressed concern, pointing out that her relentless schedule likely weakened her immune system, leaving her susceptible to illness. One insider mentioned how getting pneumonia at the Queen's age is no small thing. They also talked about how the Queen was run down and vulnerable, and she needs to be cared for as well. Adding to the strain was her support for King Charles, who himself has been battling cancer since early this year. The couple went on a royal tour of Australia and Samoa in October, a trip that proved to be both physically and emotionally taxing. While King Charles traveled with medical support, including 2 doctors, the stress of the journey appeared to have taken a toll on Camilla as well. A source shared that at 77, to be shipped off to the other side of the world to shake hands with thousands of people when your husband has cancer is, quite frankly, too much to ask. The challenges didn't stop there. Camilla's commitment to her role meant that she continued to participate in royal engagements, even as her health deteriorated. In November this year, she attended a state dinner in place of Kate Middleton, who was also recovering from health issues. Although Camilla had taken a step back from some outdoor events to focus on her recovery, her presence at such high-profile occasions showed her determination to fulfill her royal responsibilities despite her condition. This relentless schedule of public appearances and private pressures led many to worry about her well-being. Friends noted that Camilla never aspired to be queen and had not anticipated the demanding nature of the role. The Queen has also received sympathy from the general public. The main sentiment people have been echoing is the fact that many people forget that Camilla never set out to be queen. She just happened to fall in love with a prince. These people believe that the Queen has risen to the demands of the job, but that doesn't make the whole thing any less exhausting. But this isn't the only time the Queen's health has been threatened. Over the years, Camilla has battled illnesses that posed huge threats to her well-being. These health issues, some of which were life-threatening, have shaped her resilience and deepened the admiration many have for her. One of the most notable health scares in Camilla's life occurred in 2010. At the time, she developed a severe sinus infection that caused great discomfort.
Queen is currently unwell with a chest infection, for which her doctors have advised a short period of rest. The statement goes on to say that it's with great regret.
And impacted her ability to carry out her royal duties. Perhaps one of the most alarming moments in Camilla's health history was in 2022, when she contracted COVID-19. The global pandemic had already impacted countless lives, and for someone in her 70s, getting the virus was a huge problem. Camilla's diagnosis was a source of concern for the royal family and the public. Fortunately, she received excellent medical care and made a full recovery. As with her previous illnesses, the pneumonia diagnosis served as a wake-up call for those close to the Queen. Doctors advised her to take time to rest and recover, especially as the colder months approached. Her friends hoped that the Christmas season would provide an opportunity for her to slow down, while being thankful that she seems to have recovered. According to this friend, Camilla just needs to rest and recuperate now over Christmas, and they only hope they drive her and the king to church on Christmas Day if it's cold. Despite these concerns, Camilla has continued to be a pillar of strength for King Charles. Their relationship has grown even closer in the face of these challenges. Reports have described the couple as a remarkable unit, with Camilla offering unwavering support to her husband during his cancer treatment. She has also encouraged him to take breaks and focus on activities that bring him comfort, such as reading. This dynamic has further solidified their bond, with sources noting that the king feels closer to his wife than ever. Now back to the Queen crying at the Ava ceremony. Most people believe that the emotional outburst witnessed during the ceremony in Samoa may have been a reflection of the cumulative stress and strain Camilla has been under. The ceremony itself was a very emotional moment, filled with cultural importance and heartfelt expressions of gratitude. For Camilla, who was already struggling with her own health issues and the weight of her husband's diagnosis, the event likely served as a release of pent-up emotions. It's important to recognize that Camilla's health challenges are not isolated incidents, but part of a larger pattern of overwork and under-rest. As a royal, she has faced immense public scrutiny and the constant pressure to perform. Yet behind the scenes, she is simply a woman trying to navigate her role while caring for herself and her loved ones. As the year draws to a close, there is hope that Queen Camilla will have the chance to prioritize her health and well-being. the Christmas season offers a moment for reflection, rest, and renewal. With the support of her family and friends, she can focus on regaining her strength and continuing her invaluable role within the monarchy. Well, what do you think about Queen Camilla's recent emotional outburst? Do you believe she started crying due to the poor state of health she and her husband are experiencing? What exactly did Paul reveal? Has his revelations changed the way the world views Princess Diana and her legacy? Let's get started. The fateful night of Princess Diana's death. Before we get into what Paul had to say about Princess Diana after she died, we need to first know how she died, and if the reason for her death was why Paul broke his silence in the first place. Everyone who knew Princess Diana, personally or not, loved her.
She's backing a bill that would completely ban British hunters from bringing endangered and vulnerable animal trophies back into the country. Ahead of a vote in Parliament next month, I asked her whether she thinks the campaign will be successful.
Little did she know, however, that she had just presented a powerful platform because soon after its launch, survivors began stepping forward to share their truths. Among them was Esther, who was held hostage by her abuser for an entire week; Emma Armstrong, whose partner threatened her with revenge by sharing explicit images; and even BBC star Victoria Derbyshire, who revealed the heartbreaking story of how her father's abuse shattered her mother's life and how she became a victim of maltreatment. But that's not all. Earlier this year, as part of her efforts to witness the unfiltered impact of domestic maltreatment, Queen Camilla visited a refuge service in Lambeth, where she met and listened to survivors recount their harrowing experiences. This visit built on her earlier work as the patron of Safe Lives, a UK charity dedicated to ending domestic abuse. Moreover, in Manchester, the Queen helped launch an exhibition titled I Am, Portraits of Survivors of Domestic Abuse, which showcased photographs of individuals who have endured and overcome abuse. Even during the COVID-19 lockdown, when cases of domestic maltreatment had reached a dangerous high, Queen Camilla personally sent out messages of support to victims just to remind them that they're not alone, definitely not forgotten, and that help was on the way. For the Queen, this is not just a movement, but a lifelong commitment. But here's the catch. If we focus solely on Queen Camilla's advocacy against domestic maltreatment, we risk missing the bigger picture, which is her commitment to gender equality. Queen Camilla's advocacy for gender equality. For starters, it is quite impressive to see a member of the royal household at the forefront of a topic that was termed a taboo years ago. While her work in combating abuse is undeniably important, it's part of a broader mission to challenge the systemic inequalities that women face every day. For the Queen, tackling domestic maltreatment is inseparable from the fight for women's rights and opportunities. At a recent event at Buckingham Palace, Queen Camilla delivered a heartfelt speech about the urgent issue of maltreatment against women.
25th of November, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women.
The gathering, attended by 300 guests, included notable figures such as Sophie, the Countess of Wessex, Home Secretary Suella Braverman, and former Spice Girl Melanie Brown. The occasion was part of the United Nations 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Maltreatment, an initiative aimed at raising awareness and inspiring action to end maltreatment against women and girls. In her speech, Queen Camilla described maltreatment against women as a global pandemic and highlighted shocking statistics to show the scale of the problem. She revealed during the 16 Days of Activism that yearly, more than 2,000 women worldwide lose their lives to maltreatment from a partner or family member, with over 3,000 women raped during the same time in England and Wales alone. These figures, she said, show how urgent it is for everyone to come together to fight this crisis. The meeting took an emotional twist when the Queen Consort also shared powerful stories from women who had survived domestic abuse, emphasizing the importance of listening to their experiences. She told the story of one woman who had escaped an abusive relationship and is now helping others overcome similar challenges. This, Queen Camilla said, is a powerful reminder of how survivors can inspire change and create hope for the future. Toward the end of her speech, Queen Camilla paid tribute to women who have lost their lives to maltreatment. She urged the audience to remember their names and stories, reminding everyone that behind every statistic is a real person whose life was tragically cut short. Her speech was a passionate call for action, a tribute to victims, and a powerful reminder of the need to end maltreatment against women once and for all. Queen Camilla's partnership with the Changemakers. Queen Camilla is deeply committed to raising awareness about domestic maltreatment and its significant impact on young people. To support this cause, she has teamed up with a group called the Changemakers, backed by the charity Safe Lives. The Changemakers, a group of young women aged 15 to 21, are working to help their peers recognize toxic relationships, understand the signs of abuse, and know how to seek help. The reason for focusing on this age group is simple. Young victims are often more comfortable opening up to someone their age rather than to an adult. In her ongoing efforts to support this important cause, Queen Camilla recently hosted members of the Changemakers at the Music Hall of Buckingham Palace. During the meeting, which was captured in an unreleased clip, the Queen expressed her strong commitment to advocating for change. She shared how her granddaughters, who are around the same age as the Changemakers, had suggested the idea of pop-up shops in schools. These informal spaces would allow students to discuss sensitive topics like abuse in a relaxed, judgment-free environment. This approach resonated with not just the Queen, but all the Changemakers who were present. The conversation didn't end there. The Changemakers also shared their recent visit to Parliament, where they met with Education Secretary Gillian Keegan to push for changes to the national curriculum. One of the Changemakers, Maya, explained that part of their mission is to help young people feel less isolated and more empowered. She said that taking their campaign to Parliament was a crucial step in raising awareness and making sure the voices of young people are heard. Ellen Miller, the chief executive of Safe Lives, who was also present at the meeting, highlighted the findings from their research, which showed that young people are often let down by the systems meant to support them. She pointed out that children and young people want more from their relationships and sex education classes, but too often they are overlooked by professionals and misunderstood by the adults around them. Miller emphasized that domestic abuse services rarely reflect the needs of young people, leaving them without the support they desperately need. Together, Queen Camilla and the Changemakers are championing a movement that will empower the next generation to live free from abuse, and we can't wait to see how it all unfolds. What are your thoughts on Queen Camilla's approach to tackling this issue? In London, Diana took an advanced cooking course and worked various low-paying jobs. She was a dance instructor for youth until a skiing accident caused her to miss 3 months of work. Then, she worked as a playgroup preschool assistant, did cleaning for her sister Sarah, and acted as a hostess at parties. She also babysat for the Robertsons, an American family in London, and worked as a nursery teacher's assistant at the Young England School in Pimlico. In July 1979, her mother bought her a flat at Coleherne Court as an 18th birthday present. She lived there with 3 flatmates until February 25, 1981. It's amazing how she got involved with Prince Charles after such an eventful life. Royal marriage, sons' births, and lingering controversies. Diana and Prince Charles met in 1977 in unusual circumstances.
The love story between Prince Charles and Lady Diana is particularly steeped in royal history, around which many rumors have surfaced up to this day.
As Charles was dating her sister Sarah, none of them could have imagined their future together. Charles thought she was jolly, and after his relationship with Sarah ended in 1978, they stayed friends. Diana attended Charles's 30th birthday party in Buckingham Palace in November 1978, and in January 1979, she met Charles again at a weekend shooting party at Sandringham as a guest of Queen Elizabeth II. Later in the summer of 1980, Diana and Prince Charles met again at a house party hosted by her friend Philip de Pass in New Grove. After observing her shy nature and wise way of speaking, Charles considered her a potential girlfriend, despite their 13-year age gap. While sitting on a bale of hay at a post-polo barbecue, Diana sympathized with Charles over the loss of his great-uncle, Lord Mountbatten. Her comforting words struck a nerve, and he decided to pursue a relationship with her.
It's always easy to be smart in hindsight, but when you look at this couple's soap opera of body language throughout their marriage and before their marriage,
Did her words make him fall in love? Don't miss the next scene where things get even more interesting. After this, Prince was keen to spend more time with Diana, and he invited her to Balmoral to join him and a group of friends there for a summer holiday. This delighted Diana in no small measure, as she was beginning to adore Charles. After meeting about 13 times, Prince Charles proposed to Diana. He was said to be largely influenced by his father, Prince Philip, who TD'd him in a memo to stop playing the field and get married. His father had said, "You either marry this girl or let her go." Being confused as ever, he took this to mean that his father wanted her to marry Diana, and he proposed to her on February 3, 1981, after a few months of dating at Windsor Castle. Diana was so surprised that she first thought it a joke, but it was real. Prince Charles was damn serious. The formal engagement press call was on February 24, 1981, when after Beijing asked by reporters if they are in love, Diana had replied with certainty while Charles had said, "Whatever in love means." In March 1981, Charles flew to Australia and New Zealand for 5 weeks, leaving his newly betrothed behind. She's spotted crying at Heathrow Airport upon his departure, not because she is sad, but because before he left, he had taken a phone call with Camilla Parker Bowles, his ex. Notwithstanding all these, they got married on July 39, 1981 at St. Paul's Cathedral, with 2,650 guests, and a television audience of around 750 million people watching. Charles was wary of going through with the marriage, but he didn't want to let the royal family down. It would look as though Prince Charles was more eager to find a qualified bride than to actually find a love match. Although he was struck by some of her qualities, it wasn't necessarily love, considering that he was still very much in sync with his ex-girlfriend Camilla, a major problem that would later cause much problems in the marriage. Some believe that Prince Charles married Diana because he needed someone who would fit into the royals' family requirement of a prince, and also to produce his own heirs to the royal throne. Princess Diana's problems began right on her wedding day, because the royal family is a subject of intense media attention. It comes with the status, and anyone who is getting into the royal family must be ready to face the odds. Media attention had always been on Prince Charles ever since he started dating. Every of his love interests have been a subject of scrutiny by the press on whether or not they were fit for the royal throne. Diana was not an exception. When on their wedding day, she broke tradition by omitting the word obey from her vows, and it generated a lot of attention and criticism from the media all at once, launching her first hand into one of the many trials of the royal family. After the couple's fairy tale wedding, Diana felt overwhelmed by her royal duties and the intense media coverage of nearly every aspect of her life. The many duties and the lack of affection from the prince meant that they spent little time together, and the princess was not having it easy. Due to this, in January 1982, 12 weeks into her pregnancy with William, Diana deliberately threw herself down the stairs at the Sandringham House royal residence in Norfolk because she had eating disorder, bulimia, and was feeling so despondent and inadequate in her marriage to Charles. But the baby was unharmed. There was a ray of hope after the birth of their first son, William, on June 21, 1982, at St. Mary's Hospital in London, and Prince Charles, having attended the broth, described the experience as astonishing. The birth of their first son deepened the relationship between Diana and the prince a little. Diana experienced postpartum depression after her pregnancy with William and found the intense media attention surrounding her pregnancy difficult to bear. In 1983, when William was just 9 months old, Diana couldn't bear to leave him behind for a 6-week tour of Australia and New Zealand. She broke royal tradition by taking him along, sparking a mixed reaction from the press, from harsh criticism to applause from parts of the public. Then, on September 15, 1984, Princess Diana gave birth to Prince Harry, with Charles by her side. Interestingly, 6 weeks before Harry's birth, Charles had thought Diana was expecting a girl. When Harry, a boy, arrived instead, Diana kept it a surprise from Charles, perhaps enjoying the closeness it brought them. But Charles's disappointment over Harry's gender and his hair color strained their marriage further. Diana felt resentful, beginning a journey of secrecy and revenge. This bitterness lingered, And years later, Prince William began leaking royal secrets, drawing widespread media attention. It begs the question, why did Charles break the royal rule of secrecy? And why did both sons turn away from their father?